Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Hunt the Wild podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bowlds, and today I'm here with Garrett Benner. Um, he's the modern assassin on Instagram and YouTube. How you doing, Garrett?
What's happening, y'all? What's happening, Adam? How you doing, man?
Not too bad. I'm glad you took the time to come on. Can't wait to get some answers from you. Can you tell
Yep.
everybody a little bit about yourself and where you're from and kind of what you do and that kind of stuff?
Yep. As he said, name's Garrett, better known as the Modern Assassin. I'm from Maryland, and I'm just kind of like outdoors obsessed. And most of that came into and kind of my biggest passion is probably still whitetails. But yeah, man, if it's outside in the outdoors, I'm probably into it in one way or another. And I've kind of always just enjoyed teaching as well. That's a lot of what got me into the video and self-filming and everything else. And especially because in most of the outdoor stuff, I never really had like a mentor, or a lot of times not even like a close group of buddies doing it. So a lot of it, I was just, on the fly learning on my own. So I like to, I do things a little different a lot of times, but I do what works for me and what I've learned. And I like just sharing my passion, tactics, knowledge, whatever I can with other people. And I seem to get a good response from it. But people just kind of, I guess I got a different vibe than most of what the hunting community puts out there. And I don't try to be no one I'm not, or and really impress nobody, and none of y'all are paying my bills or sleeping next to me at night. So I just do me, and that's all I'm worried about.
Yeah, another guest I had on the show was like, "Man, you got to get Garrett on. You got to get Garrett on." So I'd never heard of you, but I went to your Instagram page. I clicked it. And the first thing I saw was raw, like no
Raw,
bullshit or
real, no
something.
bullshit, man.
And I was
That's what
like,
I'm all
"Man,
about.
I like this guy already." So I started scrolling through your stuff. I was like, "Man, he's got some good content." So
Yeah, I did listen to you're probably talking about Jason, right?
yeah,
Anybody that didn't listen, go check that episode out. Jason's he's hardcore. He does the shit for real, man. I got a lot of respect for that dude.
yeah, he definitely knows his stuff. We had a good
Yeah.
chat. I've got to get him on here for a second part. We actually ran out of time. We lost track before we knew it. It was 11 o'clock at night.
Dude, it's easy to go a long time when you got good conversation and good knowledge. He's not going to give you just some filler content. Like, dude knows what he's talking about. Like I said, I got a lot of respect for Jason.
So a lot of my guests, or a lot of my listeners, I should say, are kind of into like the self-filming and want to hear about that stuff. And
Cool.
I know that you're
Cool.
into that stuff. So I'm kind of diving, getting my toes wet in it. I did a little bit last year and I'm trying to do a little more this year, and you know how that goes. But I kind of wanted to have you lay some stuff out. I kind of struggled with what to buy, where to buy it, how much money to spend. Like it's all just kind of like there's no really like outline, you just kind of like searching
Yeah.
and hoping you get the right equipment and hoping that you spend money on the right lens or the right camera. So how did you get started in self-filming and like
Well, all those things you just talked about right there are for filming the hunt, and you put how much time and thought and money and everything else into that. And none of that actually helps you kill an animal or successfully hunt. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? If you think
Yeah.
about it, it helps you get the film. So it's kind of funny. My first advice to people that want to start self-filming, my advice is usually don't. um because like I'll be honest, there's a lot more animals that should be up on my walls that I've got video of instead. I've blown hunts because of film and everything else, but that being said, I love it. I wouldn't change it, even knowing all of that, and even going through the pain in the ass of setting everything up and charging the batteries and clearing the cards. I still do it every hunt because it's part of the passion to me. It's part of the hunt. There isn't really hunting without my camera. It's kind of always all I've done, all I've known. But I guess to take it back to your question, like where to start, is simple. Um, Again, you have so much to think about in just being successful in the hunt, let alone successful filming too. So you don't want to start with these, extra screens and maybe not even an extra microphone and all this crazy shit. Keep it simple to start, just a basic camcorder. I'm actually a huge fan of the Sony, I believe it's the AX53. It's about $1,000 camcorder, so it's not necessarily cheap, but I mean, I have dropped the thing out of the tree. I have had it in dust, in rain, in mud, in 100 degrees, directly in the sun, to, 10 degrees on the arm in the ice. Like, and that thing's functioned for me. It also has a night vision, which is pretty cool for you're doing your in the morning interviews and everything, and you don't have the bright light shining on you and all that shit. But yeah, simple. And the other thing I would say to anyone that wants to start filming their hunts is obviously if you're filming your hunt, you're going to want to edit your footage and put something out. I would think that's kind of the goal, is get a second angle. I don't care if it's from a GoPro or if it's just from your phone in a clamp in the tree or a phone clamped on your bow. Here's the thing, like if a deer walks in and stands behind this tree for 5 minutes before it steps forward and you take the shot, what do? You don't, I tell you, I'm not going to sit there and watch your video of a deer just standing behind that tree for 5 minutes and nothing. But if you have a second angle, a camera angle looking down on you from the tree, or you even just have your phone looking back at you, you can cut to that angle and then right away skip to where the deer starts walking out. So having a second angle makes all the biggest difference in when you try to edit and put something together. And I'm one of those people, I'm sorry, I know a lot of people do it, and this is going to shit on some people, but it is what it is. I can't stand remakes. Like, I know this dude only has one camera. So if he's got a picture of making the shot, how's he getting a picture of him clipping his release on? And how's he getting this picture of him like looking down and drawing right back? And that's all Hollywood, man. That's like raw, real, no bullshit. I'm not into that. So if I don't get the footage of it actually happening in the moment and for real, then I don't get it. So that's why I would say a second angle is the biggest thing when it comes to trying to make something quality that other people want to watch too. Now if your goal is just to make some video for yourself, you don't really got to think about all that. And I will tell you, filming my hunts has made me so much more successful in the fact that I can go back and I can watch the footage. Man, why did that buck get weird all of a sudden? And maybe I'll notice watching the footage, oh, his nose is twitching. Oh, he started to catch wind there. That's why he was getting weird. Or, I might hear something in the background like, oh, that's someone banging back at the barn back there. That's what put him on edge a little bit. But while you're there and in the moment, you may not catch all these intricacies. And being able to go back and watch footage and watch deer behavior and know what happened, what went down, and then watch deer behavior, it's silly. Sometimes I almost feel like I know what the deer are going to do before they do it. Like it's kind of weird. I often, it freaks me out sometimes when I'm like, all right, this deer is going to come right here. As soon as it gets behind that tree, that's when I'll be able to draw. That's when I'll do that. And it'll play out as if I wrote the script. And a lot of that is watching deer behavior. The other thing about filming your hunts too, is if you get the impact and what happens. I shot a doe the other night. I mean, blew right through her. Great shot. But on the exit, it came out right at the diaphragm line. And the diaphragm plugged the hole. I was steep angle. So this deer did not bleed at all. Like, even once I found her, I did not have blood. It was a perfect shot. She didn't go 55 yards. But me having that camera, seeing where she first took off, and then I could kind of see, oh, she went in a straight line almost with this big ass tree. I was able to just walk to that tree, walk my line, and say, well, here's a beat down trail. Oh, that's torn track right there. That's a running track. And there she was laying 10 yards further dead. I just got my girlfriend in a hunting this season, and she just killed her first deer. She shot a 5-point buck the other night, and I was questionable about it. She's only shooting about 35 pounds, and I didn't have the best view of it from where we were in the blind. Because I wanted us to be brushed in pretty well, because I wanted that deer to be, 18 yards or closer, basically. And she got the shot at about 16 yards. And when that deer turned, you know how, like, when you turn on a bike or something, you lean into it.
Yeah.
Well, when that buck turned and took off, it made the arrow look like it was pretty high. Like, I thought she hit it pretty high. I reviewed the footage. I stepped it back and I saw the impact. I was like, oh, babe, that's a dead deer. Like, that's perfect. You hit the liver, probably got into lung. I said, he is dead. It's not a question of whether you killed him. It's just how long a drag up the hill am I going to have? So, but going back and watching that footage gave me complete confidence of what my next move was and what exactly happened with that deer.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that too. I know, like, sometimes when you're not self-filming and you shoot and you're like, man, it's a bad shot. You're like trying to play it over as fast as you can in your head, because you don't want to forget it.
Right.
You're like, oh, where was the impact? Where was the impact? Man, was it high? Was it low? It's like, man, it's nice to just flip out that screen and look at it and
Yes.
know that, if you need to back out, if it was, that bad that you need to come back the next morning. Or do you remember the first moment you, like, picked up a camera and you're like, I'm going to start filming my hunts?
Yeah, it didn't take me long, dude. When I was growing up, I was hardcore into skating and everything before hunting. So, me and my buddies, we were filming skateboard, we were filming fights, we were filming doing dumb shit like Jackass almost before Jackass was a thing, and so I was just used to doing it. But the cameras were this big, bro. Like, it was like a cinder block. And I remember one of my first hunts, I actually went in and took bungee cords and, like, bungee corded a cinder block size camera to, like, the arm of this ladder stand, and I was in, and I was like, all right, well, if the deer walks in that one spot, I got it. Just, but I was trying. It didn't take long. As soon as I fell in love with bow hunting, the filming picked up pretty much right after. And my parents actually got me my first compact camcorder that used the little mini DV tapes.
Oh, yeah.
For my college graduation. And that's when so that was 2005. Yeah, I was on a 5-year program. 2005. And I filmed every hunt since then, like literally every hunt since then.
That's cool, man. I bet you really enjoy going back and looking at that footage from, like, 2005 and stuff, and seeing your progress growing as a hunter and stuff.
It is cool. And I wish I had put more out, and I say this all the time, but I'm so busy acquiring content and working and everything else that I just don't get the time that I want to edit. And when I put something out, I don't want to just put shit together. Like, I like to get creative. Almost everything I do, I have things that'll take me hours to create, just for, it may only be a 10-second little, like, blip or something, but I just get immersed in the process. But I mean, I honestly, I don't even know, like, how many dozen deer I have on film, and dozens. And I've probably put like 4 videos out or something. I mean, like, like even, you know, this big stag here on the wall, I have epic video of him, and I have like I don't know. It's like you see him for like 5 seconds in one of my highlight videos, but I have an epic. I mean, all like great story, great shot, perfect video, several angles, everything. I just ain't put it together. You know, one of these big bucks I got on the wall over here, I actually had to jump on it, and that was a whole mess too. But you know, I haven't put that video out, and that shit's wild. I don't know. It's hard for me to get things out because I'm always acquiring more. You know.
How do you feel about for anybody that wants to self film and maybe put out their stuff like quality over quantity? I know you touched on it a little bit. Are you going more for quality?
I always have, yeah. And honestly, I would say put it out there, you know. Because one of the things I would do while working on something, I'd learn something new, and then I'd want to go back and redo everything I had already done because I've learned something new. And looking back, honestly, what I should have done is put out what I had, use what I've learned on the next one, and just, you know, it's kind of like, you know, after you shoot a buck, you want your next one to be a little bit bigger, right? It's
Hmm.
kind of the same way it should be with your videos. You know, you shoot one, you want to strive to make that next one just a little bit better, and you know, or on par. You know, you never want to really take steps backwards, I guess is what I'm saying. But it doesn't mean that it's not good enough, or you know, get it out there. You know, that's especially now. You know, that's the way things have become. Is you know, YouTube used to be different. It was like more for lengthy videos. And now you got guys, they'll post a video of, oh, I shot 10 arrows in my backyard practicing today. And it's a YouTube video. Like,
Yeah.
what? But so, yeah, but people eat it up, you know? So, yeah, get the content out there. That's what I would say. And, you know, just try to build your skills as you progress.
Yeah, it's definitely content creation is like a learning process too. I feel that
Absolutely.
way about stuff. Like every time I make a video or something for Instagram or whatever, I just feel like, oh yeah, I learned this last time. I'll change this or
Right.
yeah.
You know, and it's a different game now too. Like, you know, like even the mini DV camera, um, and even cameras just up till like a couple years ago, like my hunting started 15 minutes late and ended 15 minutes early because of camera light, you know, and then
Yeah.
if I had an hour's worth of footage, well, it takes me an hour to get that onto the computer. And you know, so it's not like now you had what 40-minute battery and 40 minutes of memory on a card or a tape or something. Hopefully now it's, you know, you got hours of battery life. You can get these giant cards that can hold hours of HD footage, and you can transfer it in minutes. I mean, it's a completely different game now. Like, I mean, you can even transfer it directly to your phone. And, you know, I know guys, they'll be sitting there in the goose blind. They'll get some footage. They'll transfer it to their phone. They'll have it edited and put some music to it. And they've got an Instagram video up, and we're still in the blind. It's a different game, you know, it's totally different.
That's funny you mentioned the cards. That's something I didn't have last year, but I invested in this year as bigger cards because I got tired of like coming like might just film a bunch and maybe not shoot something, but I would have a lot of footage. And I have to come home and dump it on my computer. Now I'm like,
Yep. And
well,
then
I got tons
eventually
of
you got to
hours
go
left.
back through everything you dumped and clear
Hmm.
out everything that's not worth anything. And you're doing all this and you're not even actually getting any editing or content built. You're just kind of cataloging.
Yeah, you got to
Um,
keep it all super organized too, because you're like, oh man, when was that? Was that in October? Was that September? So I'm like
right.
dating everything, and
Yeah, I'm pretty good at like dating and cataloging everything I've got because you know, I do recall on it. And like, you know, in my podcast Kills It, you know, if I'm saying, oh, I was watching this deer and this happened, if I have footage of it, I plug that in to where you're watching the live footage of whatever I'm talking about. I mean, I have footage for most of the shit I'm doing. So it's, you know, there's a lot to plug in.
could you just to switch maybe over to gear a little bit? I kind of want to know what you carry with you. What camera and what camera arm? Because I've got one camera arm for my climber, but I've been looking at some other ones. So I'm just kind of curious on what you have. Like, are you carrying fiberglass or steel or
Well, I
aluminum?
used to. I've looked at them all, if not owned them all,
Mhm.
and for a long time. And that's, I mean, if you didn't know, I put my own camera arm out. Um,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if you were leading to that or if you didn't know.
No,
Yeah,
I actually didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. The Assassin Reach camera arm. Um, I I looked at everything, I used everything, and I kind of built my own Franken arm.
Mm.
And I used this thing that I had custom created pieces for, as well as used pieces from 2 or 3 different arms and created my own that I was using for years. And eventually I was like, you know what, I should step up to something a little bit more stable. I kind of want to up my quality a little bit. So then I looked to Fourth Arrow, and it was just a giant hunk of shit, I'll be honest. And I lost a knob, and they wouldn't sell me a part, just a
Oh,
single knob.
are you talking about the little knob that
The
adjusts
ten, yeah,
the
yeah, the little
leveling?
tension knob.
I
Yeah.
actually dropped that out of my stand the first time I used it, and I
So
was like, yeah.
I kind of lost my shit with them, and
Mm.
I was like, you know what? If y'all ain't gonna sell me a knob, I'm gonna make sure I cost you at least 100 camera arms, because you won't sell me one fucking knob. So not only did I talk some shit on, but then I made my own camera arm. And I've sold over 100 of them, and now their newest camera arm is a direct copy off of mine.
Huh.
So, which is whatever, because I'm not pushing it like they do. They're all marketing, but mine's still better, is what it is. But yeah, I look at flattery as the best form of imitation is the best form of flattery, and they totally copied me. So yeah, the Assassin Reach, setting up a camera arm, carrying a camera arm, and everything else was the biggest pain in self-filming. The weight of it, the bulk of it, the noise of it, the setup time of it, all of that is what made self-filming so difficult. So the base of my camera arm, it weighs 1 pound. It can strap to a tree. It can strap to a limb. It can strap to a fence post. It can strap to a log on the ground. It is completely versatile and leveling to where you can put it on a limb, a tree. It don't matter. It's got a cam buckle, so it's nice and quiet. No big ratchet strap. Everything unlocks and moves with a lever. No extra tools like the Fourth Arrow. The arm weighs 1 pound, and it is actually solid aluminum bar. It's
Hmm.
smaller diameter than almost everyone else uses, but they use hollow tube. Hollow tube, it takes up a larger footprint, in your pack and packing it and everything. And what happens when you hit something hollow?
Mm-hmm. It's loud.
Ding. So I've got, it's 1/2 inch aluminum bar stock,
Mm-hmm.
with Teflon washers in between, so it's quiet as can be. And um, I'm a little biased, but it's the best camera arm out there on the market.
How long has it been out? I honestly had never heard of it. I'm learning all kinds of stuff tonight. I
Yeah.
don't usually push products on here or anything, but I do want to know how long it's been out. How long is it as well?
It's, let's see, it's been out. This is going on the third season, right?
Okay.
Yeah, this is going on the third season that it'll be out. Um, The arm is actually a 3-section instead of a 2, and it's a 10-inch and then 2 7-inch pieces.
Okay.
And then with the base that gets you off the tree, depending on the angle of the tree and how much your leveling has to be, anywhere from about 4 to 6 inches further. So you're looking at a 28 to 30-inch reach.
Mm-hmm.
The reach camera arm. And the reason it's a 3-segment is, if you've ever tried self-filming and you have, you got your camera kind of here, and you need to go around you to shoot this side or whatever, instead of trying to turn and squeeze it behind you and behind the tree, I can literally take that first section out here, second over, third, and I can film behind me. Or I can wrap the camera arm completely around the tree if I need to. Actually, I have a video on YouTube about that shows how I use it if I'm tree stand hunting and how I use it if I'm saddle hunting.
Yeah, I'm definitely have to check that out. Where can people buy your camera arm and how
Go
much is it?
to the modernassassin.com, and right now I think I'm pretty sure it's $239, and then there's like a strap upgrade.
Okay.
The strap upgrade just gives you a longer strap. I personally, I'll just be honest, I use a different strap than what comes with it. But you know how guys are in this industry and everything. Everyone wants to self-modify and, do everything their own. So what we came up with is a strap that is functional. It works great. There's nothing wrong with it. The strap you get, it works great, but it's cheap too. So
Okay.
you're not paying money. You're paying for the camera arm. You're not paying for the strap. The strap works perfect. But like I said, most of the guys in this type of industry and the self filmers and run and gunners, they like to mod. They like to do things their own way. They have things that they like. So I tried to give you a completely usable, functional option, but it's also cheap at the same time. So you're not tying your money up there.
What are some like downfalls? Like, do you ever get sick of self filming? Or you're like, man,
All
I'm
the
not
time.
taking the camera. I'm not taking the camera tonight. I'm not taking it, but you grab it anyway, don't you?
Every time. All the
Yeah.
time and every time. I have slacked off in it some, as far as like a lot of the B-roll content and stuff like that. Because honestly, I've just been working a lot too, and my employment status and financial shit and everything's changing to where I'm working more on my own, so I'm grinding a little harder with that and everything too. But yeah, man, it's difficult to just constantly do it. But would you decide one day you're not going to take your bow? I
Definitely
mean,
not. No, it's
well,
important.
why you go all these times, you didn't see anything or get a shot to pass 10 times. Shouldn't you just leave it home this time? The one time you do is the time you're going to need it, and I've always felt that, well, if I leave the camera home tonight, this is when I'm going to shoot my biggest deer, or this is when I'm going to get the perfect footage, or when I'm going to have, maybe not the biggest buck, but I'm going to get to watch him make scrapes and just be a buck and do cool shit. And so, yeah, I take it every time, man. Every time.
Yeah. Sometimes most of the time, I'm like, God, I hate dragging this thing around, and I'll film everything and I'll bring it home and I'll look at it on a computer, and I'm like instantly just like so glad that I filmed it. It's just so fun to look back at everything, and
It
you see a
is.
lot
And
of stuff that you miss.
yes. And it's so cool. Like, I go out to Ohio and film with a couple of my buddies out there, Keith and Ryan. Shout out to Keith. He just dropped like a 190. Like,
Damn, nice.
this thing is stupid. But, I go out and I hang out and they film me. I film them. And like, I call my Ohio fam, and it's cool to just, when I get out there, they show me the footage they've got this season, and I show them the footage that I've gotten so far and the kills I've got so far. And then, oh, dude, did we ever get to watch the footage from last year together? Or probably not, because I climbed out the fucking tree and had to pack and leave and come home because I stayed 2 days later and I was supposed to anyway. So it's always fun to go back through it with friends and everything too. But you can also just learn so much, even on your unsuccessful hunts. Just deer demeanor and behavior, you can learn so much when you know what happened in a situation, and then analyze it, and I mean, literally take a different perspective on the situation. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you're on vacation, like when you're just rocking the camera and you're not rocking the camera and the bow? Feel a little less stressed, or you feel more stressed that you got to get the footage for the other guys?
Honestly, I usually feel more stressed because I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Oh,
But not
Yeah.
having the bow too, like I'm like, oh man, I'm forgetting something or I'm doing something. It almost makes me more panicked.
I can see
But
that.
yeah, dude, I love it. I love just being behind the camera too, because if I'm behind the camera, I'm with one of my good buddies,
Mhm.
or my girlfriend now. You know, I'm like with someone I want to spend time with, and in a place I want to be, and doing something I want to do. And so if I'm just filming, I'm equally as jacked, even if I'm not pulling back the bow. You know, and now I've even started filming with Tim Wells, which
Mhm.
is pretty awesome. He's a cool ass dude, and if y'all are wondering, he is as talented as he looks on TV. When he decides he wants something and he bears down on that bow, you do not want to be on the other end. Yeah. So I've had a lot of fun filming him with, you know, bow fishing and stuff like that. Supposed to actually even go to Africa with him. He invited me to Africa, but everything that was going on with COVID and the new variant and different parts of the world shutting down, and it just didn't work out for me this time. But, you know, he and I have got some other things still planned too. So really looking forward to working with Tim.
Yeah, that's cool. I listened to one of your podcasts with JJ Lawhorn,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember you were
JJ.
talking on there about I think you had just got back from a trip from bow fishing with Tim or something. I can't remember, but yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah,
A lot.
he's a cool dude. It's a lot of fun.
Um, I I there's another guy that does a podcast, Blue River Bow Hunting, and he does a lot of self filming too. And we've kind of talked back and forth about like editing during the season and putting content out during the season or holding it off until maybe after the season. How do you deal with that and like time management? Do you like come home and you got to like edit it and get it all out, or you wait until January to put out your September or October bow hunt? I
Dude,
sometimes I feel like people want to follow along as you're doing stuff, but I don't know.
I'm the absolute worst with this shit. Like I am the worst. I have an epic podcast that I recorded with my buddy Nick and the captain from Florida, arrow assault bow fishing from blow gunning and shooting iguanas and shit. And I've had this podcast recorded forever, and I start working on it, but I've got so much video to plug in with it that I just haven't got it done yet. But to answer your question, like I said before, get it out there. You know, people are interested right now, like what's happening right now. And if you got people that enjoy following you, you know, they want to know what's up with your season. And if they see a picture of that deer, they're gonna want to see the video while you can. And I know I am the absolute worst with it. So I would say if you can get it out there, but at the same time, you know, if this is your window, like if you got the right weather and you've got the right moon and the deer are doing the right things, don't waste your time on that computer right now. Get in the tree, you
Yeah,
know.
that totally makes sense. Can we let's jump to some tree stand stuff because you like to stay mobile, right?
Oh yeah, lone
So
wolf.
I
Yeah,
know
mobile
there's
hunting's
different
where it's at.
opinions on who's the best and what to buy, and I try to stay in the middle. I try not to be biased about anything, or so I want to hear what you like and kind of what you're looking for when you pick out a stand. Is it weight?
I mean, there's a lot of factors, but you know, I guess before I dive deep into it, that to me, that's almost like saying, what's the best bow? And the answer is for who?
Mm-hmm.
If there was just one bow that was the best, there would only be one bow and every other would be exactly like it. What feels good in my hand and what I shoot is not necessarily what's going to feel the best in your hand, and you're going to shoot the best. So the same with the tree stand. Who's the best? What's the best? What for who? For what? For what I do, I want to be as light as possible as I can, compact as possible as I can, as mobile as possible as I can, and as versatile as I can. And so that I start with the Lone Wolf custom gear system. Now, That's not going to be the best for everybody because you're paying a premium price. You're paying a premium price for a premium product. I mean, it's like, well, what's the best car? Oh, go buy a 350 F350 diesel.
Yeah.
Well, I can't afford that. Well, you know, so it's not the
Yeah.
best thing for you. But yeah, I absolutely, I kind of, before the point 0.5, the Lone Wolf DeQuisto Series 0.5 even came out, I did a podcast with Cody and I said, man, I think I'm going to do something a little silly this season. I said, I'm going to hunt with the 0.5 and my saddle. People like, why would you carry a tree stand if you're using a saddle? You know what I mean? And to me, the saddle's sometimes the better option. Sometimes the stand is the better option. And to me, my saddle is a versatile safety harness. Sometimes I never once hook it up like a saddle. I'm just using it as a safety harness and my linesman and everything else. Sometimes, depending how I get in that tree, I never once sit down on the tree stand or put my back against the tree like you would a traditional style tree stand hunting. With the 0.5, I can get that 0.5 in just about any tree. My saddle hunting platform weighed about 4 pounds.
Okay.
So now I have a tree stand that is one of the best made pieces of equipment, locks ridiculously tight, and it has a seat and a bow holder and a platform big enough that I can fully turn around and I'm not always just stuck to my saddle for an extra 1.5 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's a no-brainer to me
it
too.
was a no-brainer for that 1.5 pounds. And actually, now I carry one less rope and one less carabiner and everything I did before, because now I'll be hooked up with my linesman belt. Once I have that stand in and I'm on the stand and I know it's solid, now I'll hook it up as my tether. So it's one less rope I'm carrying. So there's probably 0.5 pound there, you know, and it really, and the 0.5, the Lone Wolf stands, they work as a frame pack.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually distributes the weight even better. And carrying that extra pound, because of the way it distributes the weight, I feel like I'm carrying less. Yeah. I personally like double sticks
Okay.
also. I like to be able to have both feet on the top and I also stretch sometimes and like to really grab up and really pull and just having, you know, that kind of double platform to pull and heave versus, you know, staggered sticks. I prefer them as well, but
Are you
again, it's preference.
are you a tall or a short guy? Just
I'm
for
like
people list.
5'10".
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
would
I
you say
use
the double?
I never used aiders. I tried all the aiders that were out there, and I always found that sure I can get higher while carrying less in, but the amount of energy that I would burn while trying to keep myself stable and keep myself quiet and everything, I would end up sweating more, a lot of times making even more noise. And at the end of the day, it would just sketch me out to where I'm going to hurt myself while I'm out here by my fucking self. So I didn't use aiders at all until I started using the Lone Wolf cable aiders. Being a stiff cable, it's just such a simple idea. I can't believe, like, of course, Andre thinks of it like that. And like everyone else is like, oh, I got paracord string and I got this, you know, mountain rock climbing shit and whatever. But having something stiff like a cable aider to where you don't have to look, it's there to stick your foot in. You can feel it. You're not fumbling around. Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Why do you feel like it's so? I know a lot of people are not mobile, so why is it so important just for anybody that doesn't know?
I So I guess this will just kind of be like a whole evolution story of my hunting here.
Okay.
When I first started hunting, it was with my grandfather and just going to some local farms and stuff like that. And, as I got a little older and I started driving, I wanted to start going to public lands. One of the first time I went to a public land, I got a parking ticket from parking in, a spot that I thought I was able to. I had always seen people park before, didn't realize. So that kind of burnt me off. And then I just had some other issues a couple times early on with public land, and it kind of pushed me away from it. And so I spent a lot of time on some smaller pieces even, and I can't blame them, but I give full respect to the Drury brothers before I say this. But watching things like the Drury brothers and everything, it was almost seemed more like, well, how do you put the deer right here, and how do you just keep the deer here, and whatever. So I spent a lot of my time kind of focusing on, okay, how do I get deer here, more than going and learning to go to where the deer are. And I was also limited by property boundaries. So it wasn't that I, just was too lazy to continue to, or think I didn't have to. I would find the best spots and I would do what I had to do to make them better. And for many years, all I did was make them worse. Just not knowing what I was doing and adding pressure and everything else. And I was making some of my good hunting spots worse. And transitioning from, I got tired of putting so many hours in the woods and kind of always having the same expectation too. When you go sit in the same spot, like I love hunting a set for the first time, a new spot for the first time, that excitement of the unknown. Like, you have an idea, there's a reason you set up there, or at least I would hope when you make your set, you are set there because of this sign and this wind and your expectation. That's why you're set there. Like, you don't want to necessarily go sit on the food in the morning. They've probably been on the food all night and you're likely going to blow them out. You want to be back toward the bedding, so they're coming from the food if you're hunting in the morning. Versus in the evening, you don't want to go right into the bedding area in the evening because they're probably in the bedding area as you're going in. You want to be near the food to catch them coming out. So you always want to have kind of a reason, obviously, why you're set up where you are. And so I went from a lot of that private land, small portion, always hunting the same spot, to now I really love getting more mobile and just, I put less pressure on my private spots and everything else. And deer move. Like, what deer are eating in August and July when you see them out in these bean fields, and they're, big bachelor groups, and they're all fuzzy and velveted, and you're like, oh man, I got to get permission there. There's 6 giant bucks that just live right here on this guy's bean field. I get September, they're probably not there. I mean, you know what I mean? Things move, crops get harvested, the deer move, the deer do different things. So why are you going to stay in the same spot and do the same thing?
It's easy to get caught up in that. Just
it
staying
is
in the same spot.
It is, and it's easy to, there are some, like, if you just have a natural pinch or a natural funnel, it may not matter as much when or what the deer are eating at that time. Like, they're going to use that funnel or that pinch. But if you have a bean field and it's starting and it's yellow, they're probably not eating the beans. You want to be looking toward the acorns, not just sitting over the beans that you saw them eating while it was green. And if you say, oh, well, the deer are on all the acorns, and then the beans are completely brown now and the acorns are no longer falling, you want to move with where you're seeing the deer, where you're seeing the hot sign. And that's really how you catch the more mature deer slipping up, is catching them in a place that they've never had anything to be alerted or aware of.
I was a lot like you. I grew up hunting, stands that had been there for 10 or 12 years and going in and hunting. That's just how I learned. And
I think
then
most people do, though. I think
yeah.
that's, I think that's how most people learn. That's kind of the old school American hunting tradition, the farmers getting together for opening day, a shotgun and everything else. There's always been some hardcore bow hunters and everything, but I think the evolution of equipment and knowledge, and that's part of the modern assassin is, I'm using, you know, new age bows. I'm not using just a stick and a string like you used to. I'm using on X to scout a place before I even get there.
Hmm.
So it's like using these modern advantages you have to go do the oldest primitive skill you can think of, which is hunting. That's kind of just where the two combine for me. And that's what I do is, and I think that's what's led to the success of a lot of bow hunters, and bow hunting becoming a bigger thing, and people really knowledgeable about animals, and being able to have a better deer herd and bigger deer. It's adding in all the modern advantages with it too.
Do you think technology's created or brought more people to bow hunting?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, the knowledge. I always say use the hate to educate. No matter what you do, you're gonna have some people that don't like hunting, and that's the way it is. But when someone, calls you a piece of shit or animal killer, whatever it be, don't jump back on them, because all you're doing then is you're making them hate hunters. Just you're giving them exactly what they thought. Oh, he's just a dumb hick.
Fuel in the fire.
Exactly, you are. And instead, now that you have their attention and you have them emotionally invested, educate them. Teach them something. Teach them something about you. Teach them something about the environment and why you're doing it and what it does. And it's not, hey, it's not the same as looking at the deer that are eating in your neighborhood backyard every night. It's not the same type of animal, so use the hate to educate. And I think social media and technology and everything else is given the platform to open people's eyes much broader. Like my girlfriend, she would have never been hunting. Um, but she's got to see it and understand it, and me teach her about it. And she loves eating deer meat and decided, what, I like eating the meat. I understand why this is necessary. I understand why this is healthier. I'm not quite comfortable with just some random person killing an animal and packaging it for me. I feel like if I'm gonna kill and eat an animal, I should kill and prepare that animal. And it gives you a much deeper connection with your food. It gives you a deeper connection with the understanding of what's happening outside your door and with these animals that you see. So yeah, I think technology has opened a lot of eyes. Social media, it's opened a lot of eyes. It's given a platform for, I mean, even look at you and I talking right now, and who may get some education from this. You don't know. And that's another thing that I should mention is when you make these posts or these podcasts or whatever else, you're generally affecting more people than you know. How many Instagram pictures do you look at a day, and how many do you actually click like on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've had people reach out to me and send me pictures and messages. Like I had a kid send me a message. He got a bow and killed his first deer, sent me a message and was like, I've listened to your podcast, I've watched your videos, I read every one of your Instagram posts, and listening to you is what helped me get this first deer. I used to hunt with my dad. He passed away before I ever got to do it myself, and I never had someone to teach me. I was blown away. And I did not know him. I had never once seen him comment. He had never direct messaged me to ask anything. I had
Wow.
never seen his name in a like this person was completely new to me, and I had in a way changed a piece of his life and in a deep connection. And I was blown away by it because I had no idea my posts were making an impact like that.
That's amazing.
It really was. It was really eye-opening to me. Like, you never know who you're influencing, who you're impacting, and what you can really be doing.
Do you remember where he was from, like state-wise?
I'd have to look. It's been a couple years actually,
Yeah.
but it's cool, and I get a lot of stories like that actually, and it is pretty cool when you can help someone. And that's a lot of why I do it. Even friends of mine that I get into hunting, a lot of times when they get their first deer, I think I'm more jacked than they are. And it's
Yeah.
because, wow, I got to share what makes me feel alive. I got to share that with you. And like, to me, that gets me just as amped and fired up.
Yeah, I got to experience that with my wife last year. She shot her first doe, and
Awesome.
she made perfect heart shot, but we couldn't hardly find any blood. I struggle to see blood during the day because I'm red green colorblind, but I
Uh-uh.
can see it really well at night. But it was daytime, and we're looking for blood and couldn't find blood. And I'm like, it's a good shot. She finally finds blood, and she's like, you can tell that she's just like on that downward spiral of like, oh no, like I wounded it. Like
Yep.
she's
Yep.
like on that edge of falling off, but we find blood, and sure enough, didn't go, I don't know, 50, 60 yards. And yeah, I mean, that's just a great feeling to be with somebody when they get their first deer. I want to touch a little bit on, we were talking about meat and like, killing your own meat and all that stuff. Isn't it kind of a weird concept that people just like buy meat from the store like all the time now, and they just like they're just like removed completely from it? I mean, that's like a new concept, right? I mean, like
The
100
thing
years ago,
is
people
no
didn't do
one.
that.
I don't think people don't even think about it being weird because they literally don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Like to most, like I have people that are like, ooh, you eat a deer, like just a wild animal? That's
Yeah,
so gross. And
get
it's
that a
like,
lot.
really? Like, because I know exactly what that deer was eating and what happened from its last breath to my first bite. I said, that steak you got, how many people touched that thing? Was it cleaned? In what kind of place was it cleaned? What kind of condition was that cat? How long has that thing even been dead? And then they can't answer any of these questions. I'm like, well, that's pretty gross. If you think about that, that's what's gross.
I get kind of weirded out at meat at the grocery store. We don't I'll admit we get maybe a bag of chicken or something, but I'll be honest, I can't hardly stand to buy beef. I haven't bought beef at the grocery store, and I can't even. It's been years. It just kind of it
I buy
weirds me out.
chicken
I
and
guess
I
how
buy
people are
bacon.
weirded out about venison.
Yeah, I buy chicken and I buy bacon because I don't shoot them myself. And we try to even shop at local farm stands and markets and
Hmm.
everything. Like I know right up the street, all the beef that they sell at their market there is their own beef. I mean, you can look at the cows right outside and see the conditions they're in and everything else. And all the pork comes from a farm right down the road. If you wanted, you could go visit the farm and take a look around. And you know where your meat's coming from.
Yeah, nobody's trying to hide where these cows have been eaten and stuck in a
Right.
pen with 14 other, ones yeah,
Or just being fed stuff that
yeah.
they're maybe not naturally supposed to eat. Um, at least deer, they are as natural as you're getting. I mean, they are eating natural, wild growing. You don't get more organic and natural than that.
So this just brought up a question that I've been wanting to talk with somebody for a while. So we're just
This
gonna
one's gonna
jump
be
into
good.
this. What about GMOs and deer eating GMO fields like bean fields and all that stuff?
um, it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, but if you're eating the shit out of the GMO field, why should you be worried about the deer eating out of it? You know, would I like to see that not around? Yeah. You know, even the garden that we plant heirloom seeds, you know, non-GMO heirloom seeds.
Mhm.
But you know, it's you can't avoid it. I mean, unless you're in a place where there just simply isn't agriculture. But you know, you still, what can you get that's more organic, more healthy, and more natural than that? I mean,
Yeah,
you can't.
it can't be. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's not as good, but it's definitely better than
Well,
what they're
and I
giving it.
mean, you could argue that if you have organic beef that's only fed organic things that are non-GMO'd and whatever, but okay, but it's not necessarily more natural because you're only eating exactly what you're feeding them. They're not natural browsing, you
Hmm.
know. Yeah, I think it's as close as you're gonna get. You know, a whitetail, or I mean, if you look at a moose or an elk,
Yeah.
you know, most they're not in places of agriculture, so that's, you're getting true, you know, even GMO crop fed free, you know, wild organic meat. But yeah, a lot of venison does you know, eat agriculture.
So, were you born and raised in Maryland?
I was actually born in Pennsylvania, right on the other side of the Maryland line, and spent the first few years growing up in a place called Susquehanna Trails. And when I lived there, you know, they were literally trails. Like there wasn't, there wasn't mail service back there. There wasn't no roads getting plowed. There was no trash service. I mean, my parents had a little A-frame house off of a trail, and then I moved to Maryland when I was about 5, and I've been here since.
What's the deer hunting like in Maryland? I've never been to Maryland. I
It's
couldn't even
one
tell
of
you
the
what
things that
Maryland
keeps
terrain
me
looks
in
like.
Maryland, man. I tell you what, I'm not a big fan of the people in Maryland. I think most of them are assholes. I'll just be honest. It seem to be some of the most inconsiderate people you'll come across. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great folks too, but if you want to just talk about general population, nobody's got time for anyone else, or any consideration for anyone else, and I don't really get down with that. But the hunting and the wildlife, and you know, some of the good people is what keep me here. You know, the county right next to me, it's unlimited doe harvest.
Huh.
So just with your general tag, your general license, you can go out and harvest as many does as you want in some of those counties. You know, generally you get about like $3, you know, and
Oh,
that's if
wow.
you're hunting all year round and you buy your bonus tags and everything else, and you know, hunting the different weapon classes and seasons. Um, so yeah,
Y-
there's a lot of good hunting in Maryland.
Do you know what an out-of-state tag costs there by top of your head? Just in a
Honestly,
ballpark?
I don't.
No.
I'm not sure. But when you buy your license, it comes with a buck tag. It
Okay.
comes with your doe tags. It comes with a turkey tag. So, you know, if you kill a buck, you can buy a bonus buck tag, but it's not like a lot of states where it's like, well, now I have my license, now I got to buy my deer tag. No, it's like if you buy your Maryland license, you automatically have a buck tag for bow season. If you don't use it in bow season, you can use that buck tag in muzzleloader. If you don't use it in muzzleloader, you can use that buck tag in firearm.
Hmm.
So it's kind of, you know, they do outfit you pretty well. It ain't necessarily cheap. I mean, I pay, it's, you know, it's not bad compared to a lot of states, but I'm paying, you know, 200 some bucks after I've bought my license and my extra stamps and you know, bow tag and that kind of shit. But
Yeah, it's interesting to hear what other states cost and everything.
oh,
I
they're all so different. And I tell you, that's one of the things, like I said, I had some, when I went to expand learning hunting, and then I would get so confused. I'm like, well, wait a minute. you know, you go to one state to another and read their regulations and this and that. And, you know, there's even spots in Maryland. Well, if you're on this side of that road, now you're only allowed, you know, that there is no doe hunting all year long. But if you're on that side, it's unlimited doe harvest. Like, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn. And when you start getting caught up, you know, looking at other states and everything else, it's difficult. Especially when I started, you know, you couldn't just look on the internet and go find unlimited resources. You didn't have a Facebook page to ask, hey, who hunts here? You know, you kind of called DNR and hope that he gave you good information. I mean, because I've gotten bad information from DNR agents too, and been in spots where I later found out, no, I shouldn't have been. And also found out, you really mean I could have been hunting that the whole time? I specifically asked, and they told me no. So it's different now. You have a lot of resources now. I almost feel like there's enough resources out there and enough research that, you know, people should really be by the books now. Before, I think there was more gray area because it was how things are written. I mean, some of the things, how they're written now, even I read it 6 times and I'm like, I'm still not quite sure what they're saying here. But you got unlimited resources to reach out to now.
Yeah, it's funny how they write up the laws too. I had to call, we got some public not too far from my house. I had to call the other day because I couldn't figure out from reading their script if I could shoot does on the property or not. So I read it 4 or 5 times. It's like saying I can shoot does and I can shoot does, which season you can't shoot does. And I end up having to call them. And still, after I talked to the woman, she's like, oh, yeah, you can. But I was like, she didn't sound too sure about it. So now I'm thinking, like, if I shoot this doe and just happen to be pulling it out and the game warden shows up and I'm like, well, Susie told me I could shoot this doe. He's like, yeah, sure she did. So,
well, like in you know, this a friend of mine, this happened to in Maryland, you're allowed to hunt coyotes year round.
Okay.
And there's a certain part of the year where you're allowed to hunt them at night.
Okay.
But basically it's open season on coyotes, you know what I mean? And he shot a coyote in a state park. And it's an archery deer only park.
Okay.
So he actually got written a fine because he shot a coyote. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, they're pretty much just legal to shoot everywhere. But that specific place, it was not just a public land open to hunting. It was a public land open to whitetail archery only. Well, literally a road separates it from a different named state park where he would have been completely legal to do so because they allow squirrel hunting and small game and firearms and other type of fur bear hunting and stuff as well. So it's, you know, you just really got to look into the regulations. It's tough. It's tough sometimes. And, you know, I get overwhelmed with shit as it is. So sometimes if it gets too confusing, I won't lie, it pushes me away from it, or I'll, you know, reach out to people smarter than me and say, what's going on with this? Or contact your local DNR officer or the local officer in that area and get a name. You know, that's the other thing I learned is I'd be like, well, I had a DNR officer I called and they told me this. Who told you that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I call, and then, you know, you're just blowing smoke out your ass. Now you're like, no, I called on the 13th and I talked to officer whoever, and he informed me, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now we can assess the situation and where to proceed.
They know that you weren't, they know all that. They know you're not trying to do,
you know,
devious stuff.
Yeah. And it's a weird thing with DNR. You know, a lot of people look at them as the enemy. And it's, you know, that sucks because, you know, most of these DNR officers, agents, whatever they're named in your area, they're wildlife hunters and fishermen and everything else, just like us. They didn't do it just because, oh, what do I think I want to be when I grow up? No, it's because of their love of the outdoors and everything else. Now, unfortunately, some of them do get tainted with the power and the authority, and they flex it and use it, or they give people fines for honest mistakes and everything. But for the most part, I find the same with the police. If you're honest and you're respectful, you'll usually get treated pretty well. If you're honest and respectful, usually, get fairness. So I try not to look at them as enemies like a lot of people do.
I'll put you on the spot here. I don't know what kind of answer I'm gonna get. Have you ever had any
Let's go.
bad run-ins with a conservation officer or game
Oh,
warden?
absolutely. I had a conservation officer lie in fucking court. And when I see him, I will video it and I will bring it up to him and say, do you remember me when we went to court and you lied to the judge? And when I brought it up to the judge, all he says, we will not question the rightfulness of our officer, or integrity. That's what the officer of our integrity is not in question. I'm like, well, he just lied to you twice, and I can tell you both things he lied about. And one of them was, apparently in the state of Pennsylvania, I believe the game wardens aren't allowed to be vision impaired.
Okay.
So I noticed in the courtroom he doesn't have glasses, and I said, well, don't you wear glasses? Well, I only wear them for reading. I'm like, well, how come when we were in the field you were wearing them, and now that you're here in the courtroom looking at paperwork reading, you're not wearing them?
That's attention to detail.
And then the attorney says, well, we'd like to push for the lowest fines on this case. I'm like, no, he's lying about what happened. He wrote me a ticket for not wearing an orange hat. Okay. And the law states you do not have to have an orange hat. You have to have orange 360 degrees around. And I had an orange band. And he said, no, like that doesn't work. You have to wear an orange hat. So he wrote me a fine for not wearing an orange hat.
How much was it?
It was like $280, especially because I was out of state. I was pissed. And when I went in, I said, no, don't you remember this? He's like, well, I think there was some yellow or something. I said, yellow or something? Are you sure it wasn't orange or something? And then that's when I brought up about, why aren't you wearing glasses now? And, but who am I? I'm going up against law officers and an attorney. So, yeah, I have had some bad run-ins. And I've had some bad run-ins with police too, but I'm not going to treat all police, or I'm not going to treat all officers as if they were that guy. I'm going to give them respect, and I'm going to give them honesty. And hopefully I get that respect and honesty in return. With him, I clearly did not. I did not get either. But, I'm not going to carry that on over.
Did the fine get reduced?
It got pushed to the lowest that they could impose, but I still had to pay the court fees. I still had to take a day off work and not get paid. I still had to drive up to the state of Pennsylvania. And now I have a merit on my name as for doing something illegal that I was completely not. It was a misinterpretation of the law. And then he wouldn't back down on it. He literally chose to lie in court instead of admitting his interpretation of the law was wrong.
Hope he catches this podcast.
Yeah, I'll drop it off to him.
Does that affect you getting a license there?
I don't think it affects me getting a license. Maybe if something else were to happen, it would. I'm guess if you have so many points or merits or whatever. But if I go to deal with another officer and he looks me up, he's going to say, oh, well, this guy already has violations. And that's how he's going to approach me, is here's a guy that has previous violations. When that's not true. And I don't know if it carries to other states. If another state looks me up, are they going to say, oh, well, he's got violations? I'm not sure. It's unfair. I know that. It's bullshit, complete bullshit.
I've only had one issue one time. I was out actually frog gigging in a stripper pit, which is like an old like strip mine for coal.
Yeah.
and I was out there by myself, and I was maybe a half a mile from like the pull in or whatever. But there's not a lot of trees because it had only been like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. So the trees are like real small, so you can see real far at nighttime. Well, I seen somebody pull in, and I was like, man, but that could be a game warden. And I was like, nah, it's probably just a car, it's like a fish and wildlife area. A lot of crazy stuff goes on there at nighttime. So I'm just kind of like,
Right.
whatever. So I gigged this frog, and this might even been before Instagram was a thing. I don't know, but I'm taking a picture of this frog, and next thing I know, this guy, I got the light shining down. I'm like trying to take a picture of this frog. I got this real bad camera, trying to zoom in. He goes, he gets about, I don't know, 5 yards from me, and he goes, he like pops out of the bushes. I never did hear him. He goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I like immediately turn around, like I'm getting ready to get robbed or something, and it
Right.
was a game warden, and he tried to. He tried to ticket me for here you're not allowed to have a frog gig that's wider than 3 inches. It can have as many prongs. I mean, it could have 1,000 prongs on it as long as it's not any wider than 3 inches. But he tried to ticket me for the amount of prongs on it, and he was cool. We ended up looking at the I don't know if he was new or what, but we looked at the reg book, and sure enough, he was wrong. And I ended up, I was in the right, and I'm glad that he didn't like just write me a ticket and take offense to me like wanting to show him the reg books. But
Right.
it turned out he was a cool guy, but I don't know. It could have went a totally different way had he just wrote me a ticket. I mean, how am I going to prove it?
And like I went into court completely confident because I was written a ticket for not wearing an orange hat, and the rule book stated it doesn't have to be an orange hat. It tells you just have to have visible orange 360 degrees around, and I did. And so he just wouldn't admit that he misinterpreted the law and whatever.
So maybe I'm just out of the loop, but why do I never hear about anybody going to Maryland to hunt deer?
Maryland is a smaller state. Maryland people are dicks, like I told you, but there is, like in Western Maryland, you're not going to find very big deer. There's not a lot of agriculture. It's mountainous. Compared to the rest of the state, there's not even a very large deer population. And it's tough hunting out there. It's big woods, big tracks, little bits of agriculture, so it can be tough hunting. Then once you get into the agriculture, start getting down into the more central part of the state, you get a lot of agriculture. It's pretty good hunting, it's decent. Then the eastern shore, back in, I believe it was the 50s or 60s, they almost lost most of the deer. And they actually brought deer in from Ohio and Michigan. And so the eastern shore kind of has this pocket of different genetics and holds some real hammers. But the Maryland has been known, as the sportsman's paradise, because we've got the fishing in the bay, the rock fishing and everything else. We're right off to where you can go out to the ocean for, the tuna and all that kind of fishing and everything. We've got good whitetail hunting. We've got some, in the western part of the state and in the eastern part of the state, there's pretty good turkey hunting. Decent deer, great duck hunting because of all the marsh areas along the eastern shore and the bay. And, we're considered the goose capital of the world right here in the middle of the Atlantic Flyway. So we've got, some of everything. Like, we don't have the biggest deer, but we've got some good ones. And, especially in those eastern portions of the state, or if you get down toward like DC and the richer counties where you have real big neighborhoods and real big homes and not a lot of hunting going on, where deer can just grow old. Nothing grows deer bigger than age, time, So yeah, there's definitely some good deer around the state.
Let me. That brought something else up I want to talk about. Have you ever tried to? I've always wondered this. Years ago, it was kind of a corny TV show, and I can't remember the name of it. But these guys would go to those rich like neighborhoods and get permission to hunt and like subdivision. They'd kill all
Yep.
kinds of deer and stuff. You ever
Yep.
done anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of the properties I've killed deer have only been like a half acre.
Oh.
You know, when you're bow hunting, I don't care if you got, 20, 30 acres or 200. All you need is that good 20 yards.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You just need that perfect 20 yards. I know a guy, if you were to look at his wall, you would think he was one of the most impressive whitetail hunters out there. His trophy wall is impressive. He is not a very good hunter. He doesn't know anything about wind. He doesn't know anything about the moon, none of that stuff. He has an amazing pinch point in between these two big, rich neighborhoods.
Hmm.
They're used to smelling people. They're used to people walking through the woods, everything else. And he's the only one that's got permission to hunt. So he kills great deer every year. You would think he was a great whitetail hunter, but no, he's got a really good spot. But yeah, I mean, I've killed deer, I've even had deer die like, in people's yards and stuff. And, the way it is here in Maryland, if you have permission, I think it used to be 100 yards for bow hunting. It's been reduced to 50 yards from an occupied dwelling.
Hmm.
But there was a neighborhood I used to hunt. The back of it, the back of the court went backed up to state park that you weren't allowed to hunt at all. Nothing. So them being at the back of the court, so many deer would just skirt their backyard. Well, I even had to get permission from her two neighbors because of how close I was to their house, even though I wasn't hunting their property. But I got tired of that. Because then it's like now I'm doing things to try to get the deer here to me instead of
Hmm.
me going to
Yeah.
them. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, and why most of those places I don't even hunt anymore. And I know I could probably still go back and get permission. And there was one of the spots we would kill at least 10 deer a year from the same tree, and we did that for over 10 years. um you know
Wow.
yeah, 10 deer from the same tree 10 years in a row. And saying 10 is probably conservative because some years it was probably closer to 20. It was just a really good spot. But I don't know, I got tired of that. Like I like getting out there and searching and setting new spots and everything instead of just kind of waiting for the same old what I'm used to.
I really like getting out and just getting away from everything and not hearing people's dogs bark and like searching and trying new spots and stuff. But man, I'd love to have me a spot where I could just go and shoot 10 does,
We
just kind of
used to
stock up
we
on
just
meat.
call it the meat market, and be
Yeah.
like, I'm heading to the meat market tonight because it was. I mean, we might see, out of I say we killed 10 deer a year. Usually we didn't even kill one buck a year there. You
Mm.
know, um, you'd see some young ones, and every now and then you'd see one real good one go through whatever. But for the most part, it was does and young bucks and neighborhood dwelling deer that we're filling the freezer with them.
The show that I was referencing, they kind of like base it around all these people were like hated all the deer because they were like overran with deer. They'd eat all their roses and
There
different
are
stuff.
certainly like the one place, the lady actually got upset with me because she knew I was there, and a couple young bucks walked through the yard, and she's like, "Why didn't you shoot them?" And actually, I had
Mm.
already tagged the buck, and I didn't have another bow tag, and I was like, I can't leave. She's like, I told you to kill everything. I'm like, I will kill everything I legally can, and I can't legally shoot them. And one year I might have told her I already killed my tag because I wasn't going to burn a tag on a young buck like that. But there are people that they'll destroy. Why are they going to eat just what's out here when they got all this perfect vegetation growing nice and green and lush right on the side of your house?
I'm searching for one of those neighborhoods, but we got too much ag around here, the deer and the cornfields and the bean fields, but I'm keeping
Right.
my eye out. I've been running over Onyx quite a bit looking for big
Well,
subdivisions
I
with
tell
little
you,
bits of tracts of woods.
one of the spots right now where I've got a pretty decent buck. I look at him on camera and I go back and forth. I've got trail cam videos of him. Um, he's big, he's wide, he's a big eight. But he's got really, really short G3s to where he almost looks like a 20 some inch wide 6-pointer. Um, I think he's only a 3-year-old though, so it's one I got to see on the hoof to really make a decision on. But how I located him, off of the property that I'm hunting, that's about 150 acres. There's a little finger of woods that breaks off of that property and goes up in between a couple houses and then kind of a neighborhood lane and road. And I thought, man, if I was a deer, I'd want to bed right up in that ditch in between these neighborhoods and all. And I've been catching a pretty good one filtering out of there recently. So I'm going to be on him soon.
Gonna hold off on him, or are you gonna take him this
I don't
year?
know. I'm going to have
Yeah.
to see him on the hoof. He's one of those ones that if he made it another year, he would be exceptional. But this property that I'm talking about, I'm not the only one with permission on it. I believe there's 4 other guys, and they've got, I think I counted 11 tree stands, all with the corn pile 20 yards out in front. It's tough hunting. It's
Oh,
pressure.
is baiting's
Yeah.
legal there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Barely. Baiting is legal on private grounds. Yes.
Okay.
Not public grounds, but
Mhm.
on private grounds. Yeah. So, I'm trying to, these deer, big deer, are snaking in between them and their spots and everything. So that's what I'm trying to do, is snake in between them and their spots like the big deer are doing and find them. And I've located a couple good ones there. But we'll see what happens with it.
I had I had 2 private permissions a couple years ago that I lost. Farmer's daughter got married, farmer's daughter got married, and I lost it to son-in-law. So I have no private permissions now. I sent out 23 letters last night. It's the first time I've ever done it. Not random properties, but properties that I scouted on Onyx, and I knew that I could hunt without pulling into their driveway and bothering them all the time. And how do you get permissions to these like subdivision-y areas, and how do you not make them mad, like pulling up to their house at 4 a.m. and shining your headlights in their driveway and
Right.
all that stuff?
Um,
Do you knock on their doors and you're like, hey, I want to shoot all your deer? Or where do you
well,
even start?
sometimes, if especially if it's a neighborhood you see a lot of deer, or if it's a neighborhood that like pushes up against a big park or against another big chunk of woods, one of the things I'll do is I'll try to find what looks like the best piece in there, like which one has the best pinch or funnel at it.
Mhm.
And that's where I'll start. And usually what I'll say is, some of your other neighbors are having issues with deer, and I'm looking to do so and gonna help them with the problem. Was wondering if I could get permission here as well. So then you kind of already give them the thought that, well, my neighbors are doing it too. But the other thing, and this is one of the things I think may be most important, that I always say, I was wondering if I could have permission to bow hunt.
Hmm.
Don't just say, I'm wondering if I could hunt, because their first thought, some random person outside their house with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And most people will be shut down immediately by that. But if you say, I was wondering if I could have permission to bow hunt, and most of them will say, just a bow? And that's like, yeah, and someone's like, I don't care if you use a cannon, whatever. I hate these deer. Just get them out of here.
Yeah.
But I've had, people get highly offended and offensive and everything else too. You never know. And it's not very easy for me anymore. Just the way I look, and fuck, tattoos and everything. People see me knocking on the door and they're, usually scared to answer now. So I don't get a lot of door knocking done. But, and I'll be honest, I've had probably, not even probably, definitely more interrupted and ruined hunts on private ground where no one should be than I have on public.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be some random person walking their dog, or, just some random dogs running through without anyone walking them, or, someone riding their four-wheeler in the woods and, you ain't supposed to be there, but, all that. I have had so many more interactions and ruined hunts on private land that's when I was really like, well, what do I got to lose going to public?
Yeah.
And that's when I really started getting back into public land wars, because I was tired of hunting the same places, having to hunt them so strategically because of how rarely the deer might actually be there and moving it, and having to work so hard to get those deer there, that I was like, I'm better going to better spots, even if I got to work harder. And that's really what I did.
What is the public land access like in Maryland? Is there a lot of it?
It's all different. In some areas, there's very little. In some areas, there's a fair amount, but they're small, little 5-10 acre pieces all over the place.
Very
And then
broken
if you
up.
get into Western Maryland, I mean, there's some big areas, but like one of the reservoirs near me, I think it's about 1,200 acres, which is, it's a lot of ground. So that there's definitely some public land opportunities, and there's some decent deer on public lands. One thing that, there's a piece of public that I figure out, I would see deer every time I was there. Every time I was there, I would have does, but I never saw a buck. And I would see buck sign during the rut. And what I basically figured out is, well, because of the walking trails and everything else that are also on this public land, the does and the fawns, they'll tolerate the people walking the trails and being bumped around in a little bit. The bucks simply weren't. They are not tolerating that intrusion. They are not bedding there. They are not staying there, but there's a heavy concentration of does. So when the time is right, I mean, like,
better be there during the rut.
even if you don't like going to the club and listening to that kind of music, hey, when the girls are dancing and the time is right, you're going to the club. I mean, it's just, they can't help it. They're going to show up. But, so it's all different, it really is, and it's all public land that I hunt for these sick deer and everything. And it's totally completely different than even entering the whitetail woods. I mean, it's all marsh, and you better have hip waders or you ain't getting nowhere. It's completely different type of hunting.
What is a big whitetail there, like body wise, and I guess rack size? Or what's a maybe this would be better. What's an average size, like if you shoot a doe, or maybe just like a buck weight wise?
I mean, like, I'd say your average doe on the hoof is probably 110, 120.
Okay.
I mean, now you do get some bigger, and it's not the biggest. I would say an average good buck in Maryland, like, I mean, 140 is a good deer, real good deer. 125s and 130s are probably the average and common, for the guys that are, like hunting
Yeah.
for deer. But, there's been some 200s from Maryland, but, almost all the records and big deer like that come from a small area. Yeah, because like I mentioned, deer were imported, and there's a completely different gene pool in a part of the state that's kind of separated by the bay from the rest of the state. So they're definitely different animals down there.
Is there a lot of outfits that run around that?
There
Guess
are
people know.
definitely some, but it's also it's smaller, and being cut off from a lot for a long time. It's kind of the whole area is a lot more small town type, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ground is already leased, or
Mm.
the farmers hunt it. It's quite difficult, and especially being, like I said, the goose capital of the world and the Maryland Flyway. There's so many farms that are leased out for waterfowl hunting that then they're not leasing the rights to then a deer hunter too, and having conflicts and everything. So it's tough to find any private ground um, down there, but
Have you ever tried?
not really, because just distance for me.
Oh, okay.
If like for me to go hunt these sika deer, I got a minimum of a 2.5 hour drive.
Mm.
So if I plan on doing a morning hunt, I basically have to leave the house by about 1 o'clock.
Mm.
Um, you
That's
know,
early.
yeah, I mean, getting up at 1 o'clock and you figure, the sun ain't even up until 7. I've got a pretty good day in before my hunt even starts. By the time I drive down there, get my gear ready. And like I said, it's different gear going sika hunting and everything. And then by the time you get all the way out in these spots where they are and past where most of the people that are hunting public are and everything else, it's a long day before it even starts. I would definitely like to find some private ground down there for sure. But I'm really soon, right about now, really, I'm going to start hitting some public ground for whitetail down there, and just true mobile hunting. Find out where I can park. I'm going to put, I'm going to put that .5 and lone wolf on my back, and I'm going to hit the woods and say, oh, this is the sign I'm looking to see, and set up and see what happens.
When does your bow season start there? October 1st? Is it like
No, it
most years?
started this year was, I think, the 11th, September 11th, I believe.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
pretty
we're
early.
generally mid-September for like 2 or 3 years, maybe it was a couple of years longer than that. They were doing the first week of September, which was nice because everything was kind of still a little more in that bed feed summer pattern, and you
Mm-hmm.
got to see and get a crack at some more velvet deer, which was pretty nice. I've never killed a velvet buck. Um, the only velvet opportunities I've had either just didn't get the shot or they were just smaller deer I wasn't looking to put a tag on. But yeah, for the most part, it's mid-September.
What's the weather like there in mid-September?
Usually
Or
hot.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Actually,
hot here
I couldn't
too.
believe it. I went out to Ohio for opening day, and it was like I was cold. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
the second day it was 45 degrees in the morning.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was like, man, I'm not used to this for opening day, September. Like, I mean, I've been there in November and it
Hmm.
was those temperatures. So, um, but yeah, Maryland, we have a saying in Maryland, if you don't like the weather, just wait till tomorrow. I mean, it'll be,
That sounds like Southern Indiana.
we go anywhere from 100 to 0. We're 0 to 100. We're wherever, somewhere in there.
So I want to I want to transition to hunting iguanas. I caught some of that on your Instagram page, and I have to touch on it. I know it's not deer related or whatever for everyone
And
that's
I do a
listening.
lot more than just whitetails, man. I'm
Yeah.
like I said, I'm just outdoor obsessed, really.
Um, where do you hunt iguanas at?
Miami, Florida.
Mm,
Um,
I had a feeling it was in Florida.
oh, of course, all the crazy shit happens in Florida, doesn't it? Captain Donovan Tate, arrow assault bow fishing. He is the man. He uses Tim Wells Slockmaster blowguns, and that's what we hunt them with. It's a blowgun with a reel, a couple eyelets, and a reel attached to it. And the iguanas are insane down there. Like they are everywhere, everywhere. Like I didn't realize it. They're everywhere and they destroy everything
Mm-hmm.
because they're either eating everyone's flowers and they're shitting all over their yards or all over their porches, and their fecal matter can carry salmonella and some other bacterias. Or they're digging holes into the banks and the hills,
Mm.
which is causing erosion on all the edges and all the riparian zones. So they actually do a lot of damage. Um, so
Are they native?
no, what it I believe, I'm sure some got released by people as well, but
Yeah.
what happened with a lot of those invasive, especially reptile species that are down there between the snakes and the lizards that are loose in Florida, was a massive reptile center was taken out in one of the hurricanes
Mm.
and then released, and often breeding pairs into the wild down there. So the iguanas are not native, no. Um, but they're pretty fun. I mean, it was definitely something interesting, something fun. Like I had a blast doing it. Not
Is that
gonna
the
lie.
first? That's the first time you've ever hunted them?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I just wanted to go do it, and Captain Nick Mather, working class outdoorsman. He was like, "Hey, we're going down to see Donovan." I was like, "I'm in, dude. Let's do it." So, yeah, we got some good video and everything. Oh, that's another video. I have awesome footage from that trip, and I still haven't got it put together yet.
Do you have to have tags to shoot those?
I believe. Don't quote me, but I believe on public land, if you're on public land, you don't even need a license to kill the iguanas.
Huh.
Yeah, they need them dead, and that was one of the things I thought was kind of crazy. Is like we're going down some of these canals in Miami, where the canal may only be 8-10 yards wide, and then it's people's backyards and houses like
Mm-hmm.
right there. And I remember when we were coming down, I saw this lady get her dogs and take them inside and everything. And at first I was like, oh, they're sketchy. And I was like, oh no, they're doing it so you shoot the iguanas that are on their fence and you don't have to worry about their dogs. Like, most of these people, they want these damn things, some of them taken out and called. It's just, they're everywhere and they're destroying shit. It's pretty cool. I wasn't quite sure, like, when you're literally right in someone's backyard shooting stuff, but most of the people, the people that live there realize that it's a problem,
So
so
if you live in Maryland, the deer are a problem. If you live in Florida,
right, there's
the
always
iguanas are a
something.
problem.
Here the problem, we got the snakeheads. The snakeheads in the water, and they're our big invasive species problem, really. And even these sika, are invasive species. They came from Japan. They're not native. A guy bought like 6 of them from a traveling circus or some shit, and when he got tired of hearing them and tired of feeding them, he released them onto an island. And
They swam, didn't
as
they?
yep, as I guess I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure if someone transported them from the island to mainland or if they swam it. I can't really tell you, but they got into the salt marshes and they've kind of taken hold there. It's pretty cool.
How many iguanas can you kill?
As many as you want.
Yeah.
As many as you want. Yep. We killed a good number of them too. And they're good eating. Dude,
I was getting
they're
ready to
like
be my next question.
they're like, you eat the legs. At first, I thought you'd eat the tail like an alligator.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, oh, they probably got this big meaty tail. But you know how an iguana's tail can break off
Mm,
and then they can regrow it? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yep.
So the way the bone structure and like the cartilage is in the tail, it's not a big fat meaty tail like an alligator, like what I thought it would have been.
Yeah.
It's the legs. They're just big fat chicken legs, man, but they're big fat bullfrog legs.
I was getting ready to ask you, is it comparable to eating a bullfrog?
It's
I
like
love
salty. It's
bullfrogs.
like salty chicken, and it's pretty much like a frog leg, like just a giant frog leg. Yeah, they were good, man. They were good.
That's kind of making me hungry. Are they hard to clean? Are they hard to clean?
Not too bad, no. I mean, the skin, it's not the skin. Once you cut it, it kind of, because the skin's kind of tough.
Yeah,
You can kind of just pull it, and you kind of pull the meat out of it because the skin's kind of tough. Wasn't too bad cleaning them, but they're pretty good.
You just kind of slicing them. I imagine maybe you slice them at the back like you would a squirrel or something.
Yeah,
Try to pull them
kind of
apart.
slice up the back of the leg, and then just it wants to separate, but their skin's so tough. It's not like like a rabbit, like the fur will rip real easy. You just put a hole in it or poke your finger right through it. No, this is pretty tough. So you just kind of
work it back with
slice.
a knife.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah.
How big are they? Like a leg.
I mean, we killed some that were 6 foot.
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, and if going down there with Donovan, if you want a trophy, he's even got some guys that'll mount them and everything, and they're badass. I was going to, but I said, I'm going to take my girlfriend down there sometime to do it. And I said, instead of me getting one mounted from this trip, I'll wait until we go down, and we'll just target a giant, and that's what we do. At some point we were like, fuck it, let's just have fun, let's get some footage, let's put a melee on them, and we were just pretty much shooting everyone we saw, and then we're like, all right, let's go for some bigger ones, and you're literally might pass 100 of them.
Wow.
And then you're like, oh, there's a big one in that tree, or oh, there's a big one on that rock shoal right there. Like, but yeah, you may pass 100 of them until you be like, oh, there's a 5.5, maybe 6 footer. Let's go after him.
How many people can a 6 foot iguana feed?
Well, I mean, you're only getting the legs.
Yeah.
So you kind of,
is it about like a 6 foot iguana? Maybe
4
the
big
size
chicken
of
legs.
Yeah, it's like a chicken leg size then.
Yeah. You think like a, like a nice sized buffalo wings, you know what I mean? But like pretty good sized chicken legs. Yeah.
Oh man. So what's it like to fight one of those things? I imagine
they're pretty cool. I mean, some of them, they're such dinosaurs. Like,
yeah,
some of them you would hit with the dart, and I mean, like one, I have epic footage of it too. Just straight double long and heart shot with these razor darts from the blowgun, and I mean, it just takes it like a champ right through, like it wasn't even hitting. It's just sitting there bleeding out, and even bleeding out its mouth, and it's just like whatever. And then some of them you hit, and I mean, they can swim exceptionally well too, which a lot of people don't know. Iguanas are great swimmers. So you hit one and it's taking off running down the bank. And they got big talons. So they're digging either into the rocks or the grass or whatever, and you got to rip them off the bank. And then once you rip them off the bank and you got them in the water, now they're just spiraling and flipping out and getting everything tangled. But it's fun, and they do put up a fight.
Does it does your blowgun have a string like a bow fishing reel does?
Yep.
Yeah, same kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's essentially like, imagine you just took your fishing rod, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you cut it off after the second or third eye.
Okay.
And then you cut the butt off, so now it's hollow.
Okay.
And you tie a string to the dart and you muzzle load it.
Okay.
You put the dart muzzle loaded, and yeah, it just whack them, and then you got the blowgun to use like a rod, and then you're reeling them in. It's as much fun as it sounds. Is there
any kind of sights on it, or is it just kind of free?
No, we didn't have any. It's actually, I think, pretty easy, especially if you're used to shooting a bow or anything, and you just kind of have that natural, instinctive shooting, I guess you'd say. But one of the new products that Tim Wells just came out with is a laser sight that goes on the blowgun. So you'll be able to hold it out and just kind of have the laser sight and send it. It's going to be pretty awesome. I haven't got to play with it just yet, but that's one of the new products.
Do they get skittish when you shoot one and there's like one, I don't know,
You know,
10 yards away?
there's so many of them, and nothing, they don't have predators or anything really. That for the most part, they don't give a shit. Like a
Yeah.
lot of times you can pull the boat. Okay, let me rephrase. If you're on a boat, they didn't seem to give a shit. You could pull up 5 yards, 3 yards from them, and they just kind of like, what the hell's this guy want? But it seems like they don't let you get that close if you try to approach them on land. You can still get close enough to blow gun them and everything else and whatever. But yeah, the way he hunts them on a boat, they're not really too skittish because they see enough boat traffic and they just who's out there shooting shooting iguanas with blowguns? Come on, man. You know, they ain't got nothing to worry about.
We're going to get a little graphic here, but how do you dispatch them? Because I imagine they're not all dead.
Just a little, just like bow fishing, you got that little aluminum bat and just ting, ting, and, drop them in the cooler.
No, man. Can I go down there and hunt them? Like, can I just go down there by myself and
yeah, like I said, I believe public land, I believe on public lands, you are allowed to kill them without even having a hunting license. I know some places you can use air guns. Don't quote me on regulations and everything else down there, but yeah, you absolutely can go hunt them and take them yourself without having, a guide or whatever. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a better time to hunt them. Like, I know it's warm in Florida, but they have like a winter where it gets a little cooler. I wonder if they're out less.
They
like
are out a little less. The morning sun is when they're the best because they want to come out and get the morning sun and they're still lethargic and ready to warm up. So that's good time. But if it falls, I want to say it's 50 degrees. It maybe it's even like 48, something like that. If it falls below like 48 degrees, they die. Like they'll literally just start falling out of the trees dead. But a lot of them den into the ground.
They burrow.
And the ones that burrow and den, just like geothermal, they don't get as cold. They'll survive. But the ones just hanging out in the trees, if it gets like, I believe the guy told me it's 48 degrees, they just kind of fall out of the tree dead.
Man, it makes me want to load my truck up and go down there and hunt some of them.
Dude, it's cool. And there's a lot. I mean, it's Florida. There's all kinds of wild shit down there. One of the cooler things I shot, just because I was mind blown at the power, was the Barracuda. I was blown away by, and I mean, the Barracuda I shot was maybe 30 inches. I mean, it was decent size, but it wasn't a giant 5 foot, 4 foot Barracuda. But dude, it's like shooting a Ferrari going the other way. Like it's in front of you, and then that thing is just gone. It literally, like when you lock up the drag on them, like it gives you a yank and they come flying out the water. I mean, it's like shooting a Ferrari going the other direction.
It'll take you a long time to get them in.
I
guess they're pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, and they fight hard. They are not giving up. So you got to let them wear a second before you can start gaining on them, because otherwise, if you're trying to rip while they're trying to rip, you're probably going to rip out of them. So you gotta kind of let them fight it out of themselves for a second, then get them in. But yeah, man, that was definitely cool. And then there's just so many things in Florida. They got the different types of snakeheads, clown knife fish. I mean, at the time when I shot one of them clown knife fish, I believe I was one of like only 10 people that had ever taken one of them with a bow fishing rig. And they're an exceptionally cool fish. And now he does, specialized. We're like, dude, you got to offer this, but there's not a lot of them and everything else. So it's like, if you want to get a clown knife fish, you're getting one, and you're going out, and like, you may spend, it's like hunting more than bow fishing. You're watching the whole time, and you may get that one shot, and you better be ready, and you better not blow it. So yeah, there's a lot of cool shit to shoot in Florida.
So I have to ask you one last question. We're getting right at our cutoff mark. It doesn't seem like we've been talking almost 2 hours, but when you guys shot all these iguanas, did you go back to like a camp or like, I don't know, a hotel, cook them all up? How'd you cook them? Did you put them on a
Actually,
grill? Did you fry them?
My Donovan, the captain from Aerosalt's a friend of mine. And if you book with him, he'll have you come back and help clean everything up, get them frozen up for you and everything. He's a world-class service. But yeah, we went back to his place. We cracked a couple beers. We put a couple fold-out tables, and we kind of just had a little assembly line of who's chopping them, who's cleaning them, who's bagging them, and we've tried them a couple different ways. One of my friends, he said his favorite is he made them with just like taco seasoning. We made some, we breaded some, and fried them. They were absolutely amazing. We put some other ones. We put some like beer can chicken seasoning on and grilled them. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's like frog legs. You can kind of taste just like chicken, it's almost like chicken, but it's a little saltier, and it's kind of more like a frog leg than chicken. But yeah, they're excellent, man. It's like every way we tried to cook them up, they were good.
I'm gonna have to get my hands on some. That sounds like I mean, we have frogs around here in southern Indiana, but we don't have iguanas,
dude. And I mean, you can get a big bag of them at once, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're the numbers of iguanas are there for sure.
We're right at the getting close to the 2-hour mark, so we'll have to cut it off. Can you tell everybody where to find you on social media? I didn't in the little scroll bar on YouTube, I forgot to put your podcast on here too. So if you can mention that as well for everybody that's listening, as well as your Instagram and your YouTube.
Yeah. My name's Garrett Benner. Find me on Facebook, but I ain't really on there do too much. Instagram is where I'm kind of the most active and keep up at the _modern_assassin. YouTube, the Modern Assassins, and then on my podcast, Kills It Podcast. You can find that on Instagram. Just look up Kills It Podcast, or on YouTube, just the same. Type in Kills It, or, iTunes and Spotify, all that. I'm on all them as well. Yeah, I definitely got to crank out some more podcast episodes. I have people all the time ask me like, when's the next one? When's the next one? And I just haven't, like I said, I've had a lot of things going on. Family business that I've been with for 12 years is closing up. So I'm, taking new ventures on and what I'm doing. And so I'm putting a lot of grind into that right now. But, the hunting, fishing, and all that content, I will be putting even more into coming up soon. That's kind of the hopes with going on my own independent adventure here, is getting more time to do what it is I love to do. So yeah, the Modern Assassins and Kills the Podcast. That's where you can kind of keep up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to catch more of those podcasts. I caught the one with JJ Lawhorn. Like I said, I enjoyed it, and I haven't had time to listen to the other ones, but I've got to get tuned into that. And I saw your iguana stuff on Instagram, but I haven't caught any of the YouTube videos yet, so I might jump off here
that's
check
actually
those out
the
too.
podcast that I have recorded that I haven't put out yet, was with Nick and with Donovan, and I have some plugs of the video and all going on with it. So I've been saying I need to get that done. I had a computer crash. And all my footage and everything else and my programs were locked up for, I don't know, it was like 6 months or something stupid. So I'm kind of just getting everything back. And, that's why I didn't have anything together for an episode for Whitetail Addictions. I was supposed to have my own episode with Lone Wolf Whitetail Addictions, but unfortunately, I literally couldn't access my footage to get it over to the guys in time for editing. So that really sucks because, you know, that is kind of a big accomplishment for me. I've always said, you know, there's, you know, very few brands or anything that I'd ever work with, and Lone Wolf was one of them from day one. So I feel honored to be working with them guys and everything else, and should have had my own episode, and I will, but you know, it's kind of just a kick, you know what I mean, by not getting it out there.
That'll make it that much sweeter whenever you get
Right,
it
right.
up on there.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. I know I don't know what time it is there. It's 10 o'clock here, so I'm sure.
Yep, 11. Yep.
Yeah, it's getting late, and you got stuff to do in the morning, I'm sure, and I have to work in the morning. So, again, I thank you, and I'll catch up with you on Instagram, guys. Make sure you check out his YouTube at the Modern Assassins, and check him out on Instagram too. He's got a lot of cool content on there. You'll be amazed at some of the photos he has.
Raw,
So,
real, no bullshit, man.
no bullshit. All right, Garrett. Thanks again, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. Peace,
Yep.
y'all.
We'll see you.